Alright, this video is titled Drake is Done. Let's see what they talking about on this.
Hey, I'm back again, covering the beef that'll never end. You couldn't have told me last March, when this whole thing started, that we'd still be talking about it almost a year later. And not in the traditional sense that, like, the battle was so historic that we have to keep talking about it. I'm speaking from the POV of there being constant updates to something like this. And again, not in the traditional sense where you'd expect them to still be going back and forth. No, the discourse around this beef is consistently moving forward due to Drake's legal actions. That's right, Drake has officially filed a federal lawsuit against UMG, accusing them of artificially inflating interest in Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, and also suing for defamation. One of these cases in Texas and one of these cases in New York. Now, not long ago, there was hysteria because Drake withdrew his original filings against UMG. Now we know that was in preparation to file an official lawsuit. Sometimes against my better judgment, I have historically afforded...
Wait, so Drake suing this nigga? He's suing UMG? Aw, hell no, man.
Drake grace in situations where some people were immediately against him. Generally, this grace has been afforded in response to Drake's intellect. There were quite a few times I was wrong during the back and forth with him and Kendrick, assuming that he was a little bit more intelligent to them making certain moves within their back and forth. Another thing that I think is new in this lawsuit is harassment. I don't remember originally seeing harassment as part of the filings a month ago, but all I keep seeing is his fans constantly say he has such a strong case, and I just don't see where. But I'm gonna read some of the official documentation in the lawsuit to see maybe where Drake's angle is on all of this, because I'm just as confused as everybody else. It states, in the middle of the night on May 7th, an armed group of assailants drove up to the Toronto house in which Drake and his family resided. Drake was inside. The car stopped in front of the residence and someone yelled, "Fuck Drake," and at least one gunman began to open fire. One bullet went through the security gate and hit Drake's front door. Another bullet struck and wounded a security guard who was also one of Drake's friends. While the car drove away, Drake and the others in the house summoned for the security guard and did everything possible to keep him alive. For those who don't know, there was a shooting at Drake's residence in Toronto where people speculated it may have at some point been due to a feud with him and Abel's manager Cash. I don't have anything to validate that. That just was at one point a rumor, insinuating that it may have been some level of instigation from Drake's part, since there were shots thrown at The Weeknd and XO from Drake on the track Family Matters. That may or may not be relevant here, I don't know. I just thought it was important to bring up. To summarize these next few paragraphs, that's essentially what this is about. The very next day, May 8th, and this wasn't reported, I've never heard this before, a different intruder used his bare hands to dig a hole under the security fence surrounding Drake's Toronto house. He managed to dig deep enough to squeeze through and enter Drake's property. Fortunately, Drake's home security guards caught him before he was able to cause any physical harm, although the trespasser managed to yell to slurs and threats against Drake before being escorted off the property. On May 9th, the very next day, another break-in happened. In the 2 decades leading up to May of 2024, although Drake was constantly in the public eye, nothing remotely like these events had ever happened to him or his family. But these events were not coincidental, so Drake believes. They immediately followed and were proximately caused by UMG's actions leading up to and on May 4th, 2024. UMG is the world's largest music company, and also the music company that has represented Drake for more than a decade. Yet on May 4th, 2024, UMG approved, published, and launched a campaign to create a viral hit out of a rap track that falsely accuses Drake of being a pedo and calls for violent retribution against him. Even though UMG enriched itself and its shareholders by exploiting Drake's music for years and knew that the salacious allegations against Drake were false, UMG chose corporate greed over the safety and well-being of its artists. Now, this is the point of contention that I have with this whole lawsuit, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. At what point are we going to hold the artists who are making these records accountable? If you wanted to sue someone for defamation or harassment, I would say that you'd have a stronger claim against somebody like Kendrick Lamar as opposed to UMG, who isn't supposed to censor what their artists are saying before they...
Okay. Like, why is he trying to sue Kendrick if he was making diss tracks back at him? They going back and forth. So technically he could do the same thing, no? Or my dumbass.
They platform their music. I think labels in general do take risks when it comes to signing artists, when it comes to promoting and distributing their music, because you never fully know what the artist that you're signing is going to end up saying. You're having faith in the history of their artistry in hopes that they won't say anything inciting violence against anyone, but that is the work of the law. If they say something or do something within their music that breaks any laws. A lot of y'all know what self-snitching is, and it's a concept in which an artist that does a crime goes in the booth, raps about it, and then goes to prison. Are the labels then supposed to be held accountable for publishing music that the artist makes and gets themselves in trouble with? Are they then going to be held responsible? Is the law then going to start coming after labels because they rapped about XYZ? I don't really think that's their job to get in the way of whatever message or idea an artist might be promoting in their music, whether it's good or bad. I think that's up to the artist to determine whether or not the risk is worth the reward. Also, this insinuation that UMG is supposed to know what is real versus what isn't about whatever artist says whatever about any person is ridiculous. Was Family Matters not also published under UMG, where Drake accuses Kendrick Lamar of beating his wife, not being the father to his children? And I know one accusation is societally viewed as significantly worse than the other. That's why Drake is going on this whole press tour about how much trouble and damage he's been given from Not Like Us. So I get that the stakes are different, but the action is the same. He's pretending like UMG prioritized Kendrick Lamar in this instance and had this entire press tour against Drake, when they basically sat on the fence the entire time and watched y'all throw darts at each other from across it. Does UMG now know Kendrick Lamar well enough to determine whether or not he actually threatened his wife? What do you I don't get this. They knew it was false. Like, how? What do you mean they know? Now we get to the song in question, Not Like Us, written and performed by Kendrick Lamar. The recording was intended to convey the specific, unmistakable, and false factual allegation that Drake is a pedo, and to suggest that the public should resort to vigilante justice in response. The recording is defamatory because its lyrics, its album image, and its music video all advance the false and malicious narrative that Drake is a pedo. The lyrics repeatedly accuse Drake of engaging in criminal acts, including by calling him a certified pedo and a predator who needs to be placed on neighborhood watch. The image was designed to reinforce, and in fact reinforces, the accusation by depicting Drake's actual Toronto house covered in the icons that are known to be used by law enforcement to identify child offenders on the internet. The video bolsters the same message by, for example, showing images associating with trafficking and juxtaposing the game of hopscotch with lyrics accusing Drake of trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. It definitely reinforces this narrative, but it doesn't factually say anything. It doesn't directly state anywhere in the song that Drake is any of these things. It speaks on the narrative that Drake likes younger women, and he was actually seen on stage as a 24 or 25-year-old man kissing a girl that was at the time 17. Now, do I think that that immediately means that Drake likes prepubescent children? No, I don't. But you're speaking on a song reinforcing a narrative that has only been in existence because of your actions regarding young girls. A narrative that has been so popular and relevant that you spoke on it before Kendrick Lamar ever did. I'm not one of these people that seems to think that because Drake said in Taylor Made, talk about him liking young girls, that Drake knew that this would be the outcome. But that is the first time that this ever came up, and it wasn't a point of contention for no reason. Like these rumors started out of nowhere. People have had public examples of you having what some would consider odd relationships with young women. The only thing that's factual in that song is Kendrick Lamar even posing the question that Baca has a weird case, which he in fact does. The lawsuit is not about the artist who created Not Like Us, of course, because your pride wouldn't allow you to sue Kendrick Lamar, who you would undoubtedly have a much stronger case against than UMG.
My nigga, why is you looking at me, my nigga? Watch the damn video. God damn.
And when I say much stronger, I don't mean he would win or even get anywhere. I'm just saying that it would be more reasonable to sue the man that actually wrote the lyrics as opposed to the company that allowed him to release it. It is instead entirely about UMG, the company that decided to publish, promote, exploit, and monetize allegations that it understood were not only false but dangerous. Again, this narrative that UMG knows that this is going on in an artist's personal life versus this, and they can confidently speak on what is or isn't real, is ridiculous to me. You expect them to know every inch of every artist that they've signed's personal life and also censor anything that doesn't go along with what they do or don't know? The remainder of this goes on for a lengthy amount of time, talking about what UMG probably did and them having a campaign and Drake's belief that there was this effort to push Not Like Us to sully his image. Do I think there has been undoubtedly a hit to Drake's public image and his reputation? 100%.
Yeah,
It's also the risk you run when you get into a rap battle or beef with anyone. Unless you're confident in your ability to win, it's probably not best to entertain it. Especially when you, ignorantly, tell your opponent to talk about you liking young girls, then get mad when he does that, and get even angrier at the company that you're both under approving the release of that. After the attacks on his home, Drake pulled his son out of the elementary school he attended in Toronto due to safety concerns, and once school ended for the summer, Drake arranged for his son and mother to leave Toronto entirely. Day to day, Drake continues to take steps to address persistent threats to his security. And I don't doubt this. I don't think that Drake's family or Drake himself should be attacked for the maniacal nature of what fans can generally try to interject and do. No one ever told anyone to attack Drake. No one told anyone to go to his house. No one told anyone to attack his family. As we continue reading line after line within this document, you see that Drake's kind of laying out some of the groundwork to paint a history of the relationship that UMG and himself have had since 2009. It goes over Kendrick's deal with Top Dawg, and it introduces the possibility that there was a new contract signed with UMG and Kendrick Lamar in December of 2024. It also alleges that UMG's contracts with Kendrick Lamar provided UMG with the right to prevent the publication of and or to insist on modifications to any material created by Kendrick, including but not limited to any content which UMG believes to be defamatory. This is like the least hip-hop thing I've ever seen in my life. First, I don't believe Drake has any right to sue, because no matter how many times this narrative and point that UMG has the ability to censor but refuses to, does not justify them all of a sudden saying, Kendrick, you gotta change XYZ, simply because Drake asked them to. Especially when Drake also is the same guy to put this I like little girl shit in Kendrick's head in the first place. Then we have Drake and his team within the same lawsuit breaking down the lyrics in Not Like Us, and I know that this was triggering as fuck for him to have to do. Within the first minute, the recording identifies Drake by name and states that Kendrick heard a rumor that Drake has an infatuation with young women. The next line is a thinly veiled threat that Drake should be careful that he never ends up in prison, a place where predators are notoriously the target of violence. You better not ever go to cell block 1. The recording continues to say that any woman who falls in love with Drake should be careful to hide their little sister from him. Next is a perverse reference to Drake's 2021 album Certified Lover Boy, Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile. In a play on the dual meaning of minor, a person under the age of 18, and musical scale, the recording says that Drake is trying to strike a chord and is
freaky as hell.
The recording continues to say that Drake and the people in his circle need to be served with a subpoena because a predator moves in flocks, and asserts that Drake's name gotta be registered and placed on Neighborhood Watch. It all sounds like inferences, innuendos, hints and jabs at things that you've been accused of in your career up until this point. Sure, nobody ever outright called Drake a pedo before, but people have been talking about, like I said, his dealings with girls that are young and underage for a very long time. You made a song on Jaded about a 20-year-old Georgia Smith and referred to her as a baby. I'm not saying that that means that you like prepubescent girls. I'm just saying that you've helped that narrative spawn what this ultimately is going to end up being within your own music. The recording also repeatedly suggests that violence should be used against Drake because he is a pedo. Like the sound of someone being beaten up, the record repeats wop, 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 and then Lamar will fuck him up. Later, the recording threatens that if Drake comes to Oakland, where Lamar grew up, he will not make it out alive. I think that Oakland show gonna be your last stop. This is hilariously removing any level of accountability that Drake would have to have for disrespecting Pac, which is the context in which the whole Oakland show line was even in reference to. This line doesn't even reference Drake and the young girl shit. It's just saying you fucked up when you disrespected the West Coast. I'm not telling nobody to do shit. I'm just telling you it's generally how it goes. If you disrespect a city, they're probably gonna have some smoke for you if you go to said city. That's not a threat, that's common sense. At the end of the record, the lyrics threateningly repeat, hey, hey, hey. This shit is ridiculous. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know the first thing I think about when I hear hey, 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 hey off of this Not Like Us record is Bill Cosby. Ooh, we all know what situation he's in. If we're trying to make a correlation here, that's what that's in reference to. Run for your life, Drake. He's not talking to you, I don't think. I think he's talking to the kids. The recording contains numerous additional statements that imply the existence of evidence to support the allegations against Drake. Threatens that Lamar could reveal even more secrets about Drake. Rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further, I promise. Well, welcome to the fucking diss battle. Welcome to the war, Drake. That is what happens. People threaten to have shit. They might not have shit. They might have shit. That's what stirs up anxiety. You saying that he's saying that he has more isn't a crime. The things that Drake said about not only Kendrick Lamar, but every other person that he responded to on Family Matters is fucking crazy. You allege that Rick Ross pays for sexual favors. You allege that someone beats their wife with no evidence. Allege that his children didn't truly come from him and they belong to someone else. And as of recording this, I see that UMG has actually replied to Drake's official lawsuit saying that not only are these claims untrue, but the notion that we would seek to harm the reputation of any artist, let alone Drake, who would be their biggest cash cow, is illogical. That makes sense to me. UMG's statement read, "We have invested massively in his music, and your employees around the world have worked tirelessly for many years to help him achieve historic commercial and personal financial success." They added, "Throughout his career, Drake has intentionally and successfully used UMG to distribute his music and poetry to engage in conventionally outrageous back and forth rap battles to express his feelings about other artists as well. Never did they get in the way of anything that Drake had to say, so why does he want them to get in the way of anything that anybody else has to say?" He now seeks to weaponize the legal process and silence other artists' creative expressions and seek damages from UMG for distributing that artist's music. "We have not and do not engage in defamation against any individual. At the same time, we will vigorously defend this litigation to protect our people and our reputation, as well as any artist who might directly or indirectly become a frivolous litigation target for having done nothing more than write a song." Again, you're talking to somebody who, as an independent entity, absolutely hates UMG. But I can't ignore the fact that they are making complete sense. There is quite literally nothing that they should have done. Drake, swallow your pride and sue Kendrick. And I'm talking specifically to Drake fans when I ask this question. You have to answer it for me. Why would UMG, who has given Drake so much money and also received so much money as a result of the music that Drake's been making from the infancy of his career, what benefit would it be to UMG, who still needs Drake to sell records on their label, to damage his reputation, preventing him from being able to do the thing that will make not only Drake but UMG, the company who's funding him, more money? Do you really
suing
think
the company or not?
they'll be making
Kendrick?
and recouping more money off of the Not Like Us record than they will off of another
There we
4 or
go.
5 Drake albums? Use
Trolling.
your head. And that isn't me saying that UMG has never enacted in bot practice, or no label or Spotify hasn't, but I just don't believe that they decided today the only person that's going to be a beneficiary of that system is Kendrick fucking Lamar. We didn't do it for anybody else in the past, especially not Drake. We're just going to do it for this guy. Why? Drake is in this lawsuit complaining about how big of a monopoly UMG has over the music industry, how they own so much catalog, how it's impossible to get ahead unless you are within UMG's system. One of the biggest beneficiaries within that same system that he's complaining about is also the same guy saying that he's advocating for the little guy. What are you talking about? How are you gonna say this team sucks while you're wearing the fucking jersey? And it's not like going to a job and you find out that the staff and the people there are corrupt and terrible. Like 3 months in, Drake has been with UMG since 2009. That's before some of you niggas that are watching this video were even born. So I could give him grace and be like, that sucks. You just got in your contract and you found out that you're with corrupt people. But you've been with these people over half my life, dissed and said unverifiable things about so many other artists, and never had an issue with them not enforcing this enforceable part of their
Nigga been
contract.
signed to a
that
label
they
since
can
I was
censor
4.
you. This is all irredeemable.
The fuck?
You know, at this point, I don't want to hear no records from Drake talking about I'm this, I'm that. I don't want to hear the underdog story. I don't want to hear, oh yeah, I tried to drop a 3-pack and they treated me like I'm Mike Jack. Like, no, I'm tired of these bars, bro. You're not a victim. I think what happened at Drake's residence could 100% have been partially influenced by the beef back and forth with Kendrick. I do. I don't see how that's UMG's problem. I don't see how that's Kendrick's problem. I thought that this was going to give me some more clarity, but I think bro is just doubling down on the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen in hip-hop.
Man, I ain't gonna lie, Drake, you must be stopped. Hey, if y'all enjoyed this reaction, make sure y'all join the Discord, catch my reactions live, and love everybody that tuned in.